Hey, everybody. Welcome in the building. It's Wednesday. It's trending topics. We got stuff to talk about. I'm glad y'all decided to come and spend some time with the diva. Okay, we here. I'm in the building earlier than I've been the last few days. Okay, didn't quite do 8 o'clock on the dot, but the train still pulled out the building. I'm here. Glad to see y'all. Y'all know the routine. Hit that like button, okay? Support the diva, and all you got to do is hit the like button. Well, tonight's title for trending topics is called Shocking Choices. Shocking Choices. So we're going to give the Diddy Trial updates because that's what we do. We are on day 8 of testimony. But remember, this thing started on May the 5th. So really, how many days we in? Because today's the 21st. But it's only day 8 of testimony and opening arguments because the first week, they took one whole week to get a jury. The jury is 12 main jurors, 6 alternates. And out of the 12 main jurors, we got 8 men and we got 4 women. So we're going to talk about the updates. And to me right now, for the way I see it, the prosecution got work to do. Now, everybody keeps saying they got time. Give them time. We only, 8 days in of testimony. Well, they said they only needed 8 weeks, I believe. How many weeks do we need to hear about his sexual preferences? How many weeks do we need to hear about this DV? I'm clear on that. I'm very clear. The man had a problem with putting his hands on other people. But I want to know when we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of this thing. When we're going to hear about the meat and potatoes, these RICO charges, and why he needs to be locked up for 15 years to life. I need to hear it. Now, it's questionable whether Kid Cudi is going to be able to come to the stand. And it's questionable because they said what he said is hearsay. He doesn't have direct knowledge that Diddy did, in fact, blow up his car, which will give us the arson charges. So I don't know what's going on with that. And then the prosecution don't seem to have their witnesses on lockdown. The judge is signing deals, profit deals, immunity deals at lunchtime. He should be eating whatever he eats or drinking his coffee or his tea or whatever he does. Maybe he likes to take a walk at lunchtime, but no, he had to sign a deal at the 11th hour for the witness that got on the stands, one of Diddy's ex-assistants, because that one said he would not take the stand without a deal. Now, see, there's your enterprise, but see, my problem is y'all giving everybody that's a part of the enterprise, allegedly, y'all giving them a deal. Let me see what Nathan said. Hello, Diva. The more we hear about DV and all the other crap, the more the judge could get tired of it and just dismiss the case. Another waste of our hard-earned money and taxes. Shaking my damn head. I'm shaking it with you, but we in the minority, Nathan, because the people are buying into these shenanigans. I called it a circus, and the people wanted to beat me up and drag me by my little bit of hair I got on my head. I had to tell him, calm down. Only got 5 strands. So, yeah, it's a waste of our money right now. I need them to get to the meat and the potatoes, and I need them to lock down their witnesses. We heard about the one witness that said, I ain't coming. And I never told you I was coming. This witness, the ex-assistant, he said he was going to get on the stand and plead the 5th until they gave him the deal. Now he's going to get on the stand and he's talking. Then we got the expert psychiatrist who's giving us the definition and trying to give us an understanding of why people don't leave when they're in said situations. Well, you're helping the defense because the defense keeps trying to tell everybody that this was a domestic violence relationship and not sex trafficking. So a sex trafficking victim, they want to leave, point blank, period, but they don't have no options because they're trapped. If you're trying to tell us the reason why she didn't leave is because of the money, to this and that, that sounds more like a relationship, a DV situation. But again, I question y'all, when she went to her parents and told them that he was going to release a sex tape unless he got money from her, $20,000. Now that's extortion, that's coercion, right? But He said that's what he said. And they said they mortgaged their home to get the $20,000. They wired it to Diddy, and then they got it back a couple days later. But I only bring that up to say this. If you want to get an expert on the stand and tell us the reason why they didn't leave is because financial reasons, well, if your mother was willing to give you money to take care of a tape, your mother wouldn't give you money to get out of said situation? I guess they think that everybody just simply don't use their brain. But we're going to do the Diddy updates. Then the next one we're going to talk about is one friend takes another friend's life. I couldn't find the details as to why she took her friend's life, but it's still tragic and sad. And she took her friend's life in front of other people. You think Diddy crazy? Listen, there's people, everyday people, walking on the streets that have straight lost their mind. You used to stay at this girl's house. Y'all were good friends. And for whatever reason, you go straight up, walk up on her with other people around. You pow in the head and some more times. And then you get in your car and you leave. Now she's gone and you locked up for 28 years to life. There ain't nobody in the world and nothing in this world that can make me want to lose my freedom. People need anger management therapy. And we got this daughter who was a nurse for 28 years. A nurse for 28 years. And her mother was sick. They took the mother to the hospital. They had the mother intubated. She decides to just pull out the tube. Talking about she didn't want her mother to suffer. Well, now you suffering and your mother is suffering her afterlife because you can't even bury her, probably do the proper funeral, whatever, because you locked up. I don't know what snapped in her head. I don't know if she was watching her mother suffer for months or years or whatever the case may be. But why would you pull the tube out of your mother? She probably snapped. And now it's going to cost her. And when they tried to put the tube back in the mother, because you know all kind of alarms went off after the tube was snatched out of the mother, all kind of alarms went off. They tried to put the tube back in the mother, but the mother died. You know, I try my best. You know, all of us, I think we just got to do our part, but none of us is going to change the world single-handedly. But we can all try to do our part. And I do try to do my part. You know, I just give little messages. Love yourself. Be kind to yourself. Seek therapy if you need it. Don't live above your means. I told you I drive a Hyundai, regular gas. But I can afford to drive it and pay the insurance and not have to sell my soul to the devil so I can do it. Got a modest townhome. I love it. I'm good. And I don't have no problem. You know, before they told us to stop going to Target, I buy high end, I buy low end. I buy what the pockets can afford at the time. I got clothes from Walmart. I have clothes from Target. I love the Gap, Banana Republic. You don't have to be Gucci. But if I can afford Gucci then that day and I get it, then I got me a little Gucci. But everything I own don't have to be a label. You got to figure things out and you got to always stay in peace with yourself, because if you're not in peace with yourself, when you walk out in them streets, you're not going to be in peace with anybody you bump into. Love got to come from within first, because if it don't, that's when you out there, you're drugging, you're drinking, you're taking people's lives. You got road rage. But listen, guys, I got to get this party started. The platform is empty, so it's a diva show today. But we still going to say what? What do I need in that chat, y'all? I need a choo-choo. All aboard, everybody. It is Wednesday night trending topics, and we got stuff to talk about. It's called Shocking Choices. We got the Diddy Trial Day 8 update. We got one friend takes her other friend's life. We got a daughter that takes her mother's life. Just shocking choices. Very, very sad. I'm going to go ahead and share screen, and we're going to get right into the Diddy update. So let's do that first. I got so much open on the screen here. Okay, here we go. Y'all know I do my TMZ, so let's hear Harvey give us these updates.
In the Diddy case tomorrow when Kid Cudi takes the stand. But there may be something that happens that will prevent him from testifying. Well, the new developments in Diddy have to start with evidence that the jury has seen a lot of the evidence that was seized at the Star Island raid of Diddy's home, which is in the Miami area. Um, but what was seized is, again, it is just hard for me to understand how the prosecution is trying to tie this to racketeering. And I think that's where they're going. And I got to tell you, here's some of what they seized. They seized baskets of baby oil, Astroglide, sex toys, high heels. They seized AR 15s. Well, that gets you somewhere, right? They have magazines with bullets, and some of the serial numbers were scratched out, not on the guns, but on the magazines themselves. So, look, racketeering means that there is some kind of a criminal organization that Diddy is running and that he is engaged in a variety of crimes. And I don't want to just say, think of the mafia, but that is the classic case. But it's got to be a crime organization. Baby oil, Astroglide. I mean, that's not racketeering. Even AR 15s. There are people who own AR 15s. And in some states, it's not legal, depending on the way they own them. Um, but those are gun charges. That's not racketeering. And that's not interstate commerce of sex workers. So I'm not sure where that's getting prosecutors in the big picture. I just still am having trouble with this concept of racketeering. By the way, they seized cocaine and mushrooms and ketamine. Again, state crimes for sure. But a lot of people do cocaine and ketamine and mushrooms. That doesn't mean they're engaged in organized crime. There is a huge leap from saying people have mushrooms, do cocaine, and saying it's all part of an organized crime venture. You know, if Diddy were out selling cocaine as a front for a criminal organization, that's one thing. But that's not what they're alleging here. Okay, so then Dawn Hughes takes the stand. She is a forensic psychologist, and she is essentially talking about Stockholm syndrome, which is something that really developed in the 90s, where you could have a domestic abuse victim who stays, who endures the beating, and feels as if they've done something wrong, that they can't leave. And it maybe they feel they can't leave. And this is a whole psychological profile that Don Hughes tried to set up for the jury. Um, Frankly, I thought a lot of people knew about this because obviously what the prosecution is trying to show is that Cassie was in an 11-year relationship with Diddy. And, you know, given the abuse and everything else, why didn't she leave? Well, that was the point of Don Hughes getting on the stand to talk about the fact that there are women who feel trapped, who realistically can't get out, who keep getting drawn back in. We have somebody in the courtroom, one of our producers, who said the jury was really interested in this testimony. There was a lot of eyebrow raising, and especially with the women, even when the lawyers went to sidebar, they were really interested in what was going on with Don Hughes. So it seems like prosecutors may have scored points with Don Hughes, especially with some of the jurors, and it seems the female jurors in particular. Um, and this does go to the whole idea of consent, that, if Cassie didn't leave, it seems she consented. Well, Don Hughes is there to say, look, just because you stay doesn't mean you consent. So I think the prosecution probably scored some points with her, with some of the jurors. So then George Kaplan takes the stand. George Kaplan is a former assistant of Diddy's from 2013 to 2015. And he talked about carrying drugs for Diddy in a Gucci bag, no less. So now we're dealing with two different designer bags of drugs. So carried drugs filled with Gucci bags, would sometimes buy drugs for Diddy, would set up hotel rooms for freak offs, would then clean up the hotel rooms after the freak offs. And, you know, that is what he did. And, and what prosecutors you're trying to show what? Is that organized crime? I don't see how that's organized crime. I mean, yes, he had an assistant who was facilitating freak offs. Um, so, I mean, if it's about interstate transportation, that seems kind of irrelevant. If it's about racketeering, I don't see how that's racketeering. I mean, you could make the argument, I suppose, that if some of the sex workers come from out of state and this guy is facilitating all of that, that's part of a criminal venture. That's not what racketeering is typically about. It feels like a stretch at best. And again, I don't see how the jury is going to buy that this is evidence of racketeering. This is an assistant who says he worked, 80 hours a week and he was worked to the bone and threatened. But he wasn't threatened with physical violence. He threatened his job every month, according to this guy. So, I don't get it. I don't see where that goes. Um, I want to talk about Kid Cudi. Kid Cudi may take the stand tomorrow, and he could be somebody really useful for prosecutors when it comes to racketeering. If Kid Cudi can somehow tie Diddy to the fact that his car was set on fire, and that it essentially blew up. If Kid Cudi has evidence of that, that could be, I think, the best evidence so far in this trial, that this was a criminal organization, that Diddy is sending people out to torch Kid Cudi's car because Diddy was jealous that Kid Cudi is dating Cassie. So I think that that could be real firepower for the prosecution. Problem is this: the defense made a passing comment this morning about hearsay and about Kid Cudi in particular. And what I know the defense is driving at, because this is pretty obvious, is that somebody who testifies about an incident like this has to be what we call in the law a percipient witness, somebody who has firsthand knowledge that I saw him torch my car, or I saw so and so torch the car. He told me he did X. That's direct knowledge that is fair game in a trial. If Kid Cudi says, so and so told me that this happened, that's classic hearsay. And you can object, and that objection is generally sustained, meaning Kid Cudi can't talk about what somebody told him that Diddy did. That's the problem with hearsay in a criminal trial. And so it sounds to me like the defense is loaded for bear, that if Kid Cudi takes the stand and starts talking about what others said to him, if he doesn't have it directly, you are going to hear an instant objection before Cudi answers, and the jury may never get those answers. I don't know what Kid Cudi knows firsthand, but if it is hearsay, this may be very frustrating for prosecutors. We don't know exactly what it is, and frankly, I'm not even sure the defense knows what Kid Cudi is going to say. But it seems like they're ready to lunge on this hearsay point. Okay, the final thing I want to mention is the Punisher. The Punisher is Sheree Hayes. He is the guy who was the exotic dancer who went to the Trump International Hotel, the Essex House in New York, and some other hotels along the way in New York over a period of 3 years, and had sex with Cassie while Diddy watched. He went there initially because he was going to do a dance for Cassie for her birthday with Diddy watching. It turned into sex. They had him there 5 or 6 times a year for 3 years. So I talked to him today on TMZ Live, and I asked him something that I just was baffling me. And I just said, look, I don't understand why the prosecution called you, because I read your testimony, I read the transcript, and I wasn't seeing anything where Diddy pressured Cassie or coerced Cassie or forced Cassie. And I don't see where that got the prosecution with your testimony, either on racketeering or even on interstate commerce, because he is from Harlem and all of the encounters were in New York. So there was no interstate commerce, which means the prosecution didn't have jurisdiction to file against Diddy for what he did, because he was all local, he was all New York. So I said, help me out here. I said, I don't get it. I don't understand. And his answer was, neither do I. He said, I don't know why they called me. And he said, as a matter of fact, he said, honestly, I thought my testimony actually helped the defense because I couldn't really testify to anything about coercion or force or anything like that. You know, at times she would wince, but I never thought of that as coercion. And so I said, well, did prosecutors tell you why they were calling you? And he said, no. He said, they listened to my story and they called me to the stand and I told my story. Um, and I was surprised, frankly, that he was surprised, because I thought maybe I missed something, and maybe I did. But even he does not understand why he was called. And he actually thinks whatever he said ultimately showed a consensual tryst between him, Cassie, and Diddy. Okay, so tomorrow, Kid Cudi. This could be big for the prosecution, or it could be frustrating, so stay tuned.
Ooh, ooh. So you hear there yourself that this, who was on the stand today, what could possibly happen with Kid Cudi, unless Kid Cudi, has direct knowledge that for sure Diddy is the one that blew up his car, then his testimony is going to be a waste of time. So yes, this Punisher, see, the jury is not sequestered, right? So without the jury being sequestered, to me, they can hear all of this stuff that's happening, Harvey's recap. We got to just trust that they're not looking at the internet, which I'm saying, okay. So I'm pretty sure they have. Yeah, but see, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure they had a reason to call all of their witnesses, but some of their witnesses are not proven to help them. And some of the other witnesses are saying, I'm not coming. So it seems like they didn't really lock down their witnesses. And if the Punisher got off the stand and said out of his own mouth, I told the prosecution I don't have nothing, I don't even know why I'm here, they didn't even prep me, I feel that's problematic. So let me go ahead and I got to knock out some of my screens here because I have so much stuff on my screen. We're going to hear the Punishers, say that he don't even know why they brought him here. So exotic male dancer, the Punisher, I didn't see any crimes with Diddy. You would think that you got this RICO case against Diddy. It's a big deal. You want to get a conviction because that's why you bring the case against somebody. And then you got a witness that you didn't even prep properly, and a witness that's saying he don't even know why he came because pretty much he ain't have nothing to offer. I think that is huge and it's problematic. And then you got the psychiatrist coming on the stand, and she's pretty much talking about why DV people don't leave. But y'all want to tell us that Cassie was sex trafficking. Well, was she in a relationship or was she sex trafficking and she was forced? Are you trying to tell us it's a mixture of both? Let's take a listen to him speak.
And I'm trying to figure out, where is the crime that they're prosecuting Diddy for? And I'm wondering, when you had your discussions with prosecutors before they called you, did they explain where they were going? Because I was confused about that when you walked off the stand.
Honestly, that was my personal experience too, being confused. I remember when investigators first approached me in March of 2024. This was before any charges, allegations. I basically told them, "Hey guys, I have nothing for you. I didn't see any violence. I didn't get any cues to her being in distress, and any cues or anything that I mentioned, which I did say there was some wincing and some sighing and stuff. That was in hindsight. If there was never any allegations, I would have never even perceived it as being an issue to even point out. So I'm just as confused as you. I still, to this day, I'm like, I don't know why I testified. I always believed my testimony, if it was any benefit, might have benefited the defense.
Your initial phone call, you said, look, I don't have anything, but clearly they pressed forward. I'm sure you had several meetings, but there was never anything where they said, look, we're going to call you because we think this will connect to something else. Did they ever try to connect the dots for you? Because obviously you told them you were confused right off the bat.
Yeah, I think what the problem was I kept getting passed from investigator to another investigator to ultimately when I was with the attorneys prosecuting. And so obviously they relay notes, but I don't think it was communicated aware, and it was never communicated to me what direction they were going, what from my testimony was valuable that they thought helped the case. Because me and my own evaluation, I just really didn't understand.
I read your testimony, and you're talking about Cassie paying you and Cassie dressing up and kind of prompting you. I kind of had the same feeling you did, which was that's what the defense is arguing, that this was kind of a consensual sexual liaison.
And even if Diddy, and I know you did say at points that Diddy did make some payments, that she would make the initial, I guess, down payment, and then he would pay more when the encounter was over. But you weren't, to be clear, you were never transported, as the indictment is, so you weren't transported across state lines.
This was all in New York, and you live in New York,
correct?
right?
Exactly. At the time, I lived in Harlem, and all of the encounters happened in New York hotels. So again, like when this stuff started, I was like, look, there's no way I can associate with trafficking. I'm all in the same state.
I thought maybe prosecutors told you something beforehand, because I was so confused when you got off the stand. I didn't realize you shared the confusion.
The only thing I can assume, and this is an assumption because we didn't have the conversation, was I think they wanted to make more significance with the wincing and the sighing and the frustration. But even if I'm being honest, if in the moment, I did not associate that stuff with her being in distress to doing anything against her will. And even in hindsight, I understand the allegations, but I would be misrepresenting the situation if I said the situations I was in would translate it. Even in hindsight, I cannot say, oh, those sounds or those wincings or those sighs were her in distress, because it just did not appear to be that way.
I think, and I'm gonna say this respectfully. I think probably a lot of the sighing and the whistling, because Cassie said herself, she experienced a lot of UTIs that at a point the regular antibiotics couldn't help her, and she had sores in her mouth from what she was doing at these freak offs, and these freak offs were occurring weekly in 4 to 5 days out of week, which is crazy. So Sheree Hayes, an erotic male dancer known as the Punisher, tells us he's unsure why federal prosecutors called him as a witness in the Diddy trial, because he says he never saw Diddy do anything that seemed illegal and thinks his testimony may have actually helped the defense. The Punisher joined us on TMZ Live Wednesday, and we asked him if prosecutors gave him any indication why they wanted him to get on the stand, because his testimony Tuesday left many people wondering how prosecutors thought it related to charges against Diddy. That was him when he was exiting for his after he gave his testimony. Hayes said he's still confused as to why his testimony was necessary, telling us he let prosecutors know from the jump he didn't see anything that looked criminal during his sexual interactions with Diddy and Cassie. Stunningly, Hayes said he actually thinks he may have helped Diddy's defense, which only raises more questions about why prosecutors wanted him on the stand. Hayes mentioned Cassie winced a few times during sex, but that's about it, claiming he didn't see anything that looked like force, violence, or coercion on Diddy's part. He tells us he lived in New York and met Diddy and Cassie in New York hotels exclusively, so it doesn't seem like that could relate to the charge about allegedly transporting prostitutes across state lines. Now, he wrote this book, In Search of Freezer Meat, a story of the male mental health crisis caused by erectile dysfunction, and the only true cure is no one talking about it, a penis implant. So he did talk about himself in this book and what he did and what he went through after, Cassie said they stopped hiring him because he couldn't get it up. The best words I could use right now. Hayes wrote a book about his 30-year career as a top-tier exotic dancer called In Search of Freezer Meat. It was mentioned in his testimony and is now a number one new release on Amazon. There are passages about his experiences with Diddy and Cassie. They aren't specifically mentioned by name, but the descriptions match up with his testimony, and it touches on erectile dysfunction and penis implants. But he says he's not chasing clout here. And he's saying that too, that he's not chasing clout because he did not want to testify. He told them, I don't got nothing for you. But my thing is, they had 11 witnesses so far. And out of 11, I don't know, outside of Cassie explaining, everything she went through, I don't know how the others have held this case. Let's take a look.
I say we did not see this coming, but your book has gotten a lot of attention. I'm wondering if you've heard anything. The book is called In Search of Freezer Meat, and it's essentially based on your, you don't use real names in it, but you do what we now know to be the encounter with Cassie and Diddy is described in the book. But it's about your life as an exotic dancer and escort, but you're also dealing with
Diane. They all should have a gag order. You hit the nail on the head. They all should have a gag order until the case ends, especially because this jury has not been sequestered. You can't tell me there's no way they're not bumping into this information. And this man is saying, I don't even know why I was on the stand. A gag order. You are correct. All of them.
ED. When did you get the idea to put this book together?
I went through, and sometime over the COVID, I went through like a really, really, really bad break. And it was a lot of betrayal and stuff like that. And for whatever reason, I was told that her acts of her seeking relationships outside of me was because of my sexual inability, which hit my ego tremendously. I was crushed. And I went about a year without being able to achieve an erection at all. And that was a no-no for me. I went in to almost a drastic place of trying to solve it. And I ended up going to the doctor, getting all these tests, getting all these things. And I was physically fine. There was absolutely nothing wrong with me physically, and it was all mental. And so when I started doing the research on ED, like 50% of cases of ED are mental. And men are running around trying to correct a mental problem with a physical fix. And I went so far with it being a mental problem, I ended up getting a penis implant unnecessarily. And I don't regret the penis implant, don't get me wrong. I think for guys who are really, really struggling with erections and stuff like that, it's something that should be considered, something that should be a possibility, because it really corrects it 100%. Nobody talks about them. They're inconspicuous. You cannot see that you have it. And it removes all the anxiety, all the stress, all the fear that we build up for years as men, dealing with this issue, thinking that there's no way to solve it, or there's no cure that we can feel confident in. I realized there was no resource that was relatable, that was personable. It was not like.
I'll finish in a minute. Q, thank you so much for the super chat. In my opinion, how you doing? Thanks for stopping by. Don't sleep. They only need to prove 2 RICO charges. That's it. That is all strategic. The feds win 93% of their cases. They don't come to play. If this wasn't a short thing, it would not go to court. I thank you, Q, for your support and for the super chat. I'm still not convinced that they got this thing on lock. I am not. I'm not. I think they're all over the place. I think it is sloppy right now. But we'll see. Everybody hit the like button. Let's continue to listen to the Punisher. But I am in agreement. Everybody needs to have a gag order that gets on that stand until this case is over. Let's continue.
A guy talking to a guy. So I tell my friends all these crazy stories of my life. They love them. And I just wanted to find a way of maybe telling my personal stories of my life in association with me solving and curing my ED problems in multiple ways. It's not just about an implant. I experimented with anything under the sun. And I just have a funny story, personable story that goes along with the medical cure or possibility that you can use. And I want it to be relatable and a source for men that's struggling, because there's a lot of shame. It's a lot of shame and feeling emasculated with struggling with ED.
I got to say that, to be honest with you, when I heard about the book, I thought this was just about the romp of an escort. But this book has a real purpose. Yeah. I'm wondering, have you gotten any traction from the testimony? Are people more interested in the book today than they were a week ago?
Sales going up?
Yeah.
Believe it or not, no. Because I think a lot of people, similar to what you believed, is that it's about me glorifying a sexual scenario. And that's just a black eye anyway, with a woman that is, was allegedly abused. So I don't think there's no traction in that. I'm really pleased and appreciative that you guys see that it's in a different light and giving me the opportunity to explain what the real premise is about. Because, part of the reason I'm getting all this flack about me trying to chase clout and using this scenario to promote my book. And I can see where some people may believe it's in distaste, my book being mentioned in the trial and stuff like that. But from a standpoint of this trial is so huge, and once I'm involved in it for the rest of my life, I'm Sheree Hayes, the male escort, which I was never a male escort. I'm a male dancer, right? So the fact that the book is associated with me is helpful because at least it can paint me in a different light to the few people who decide to look into it more so than what the bigger picture is, just me being involved in the Diddy Cassie trial.
I'll give you the highlights of the let me just pause that. I'll give you the highlights of the the therapist that got on the stand. She pretty much described Stockholm syndrome. I thought it was an epic fail. Harvey thinks a little bit different than I do. I thought it was an epic fail because they talked about, the reason why her memory is a little jaded is because in trauma victims that happened. But then are you telling me that I should not believe what she said on the stand because her memory, how do I know that the thing she said, her memory kicked in right and correctly? They talked about how a lot of these people don't leave because of money, but yet y'all had Regina Ventura get on the stand, talked about how she mortgaged her house to block a sex tape from coming out. She wouldn't mortgage her house to get her daughter out of an abusive relationship. This is a lot going on. That's the highlights. Thank you, Wayne. And in my opinion, for being in the building, in my opinion, what are your thoughts?
So the Punisher, I definitely think he's a clout chaser.
Really?
You come out here advertising your book when we trying to get the nitty gritty of the case. It is very tactless. No matter what you was, escort, stripper, you was involved, okay? And you wasn't trying to publicize your book then, so why try to publicize it to us now? It's nasty. As far as the way this trial is going, to me, and this is just me looking at it, and I've listened to a lot of different attorneys, I do think it's a slow roll, but I think they are proving their case. I think they're tying their pieces together bit by bit, and if you're not careful to watch those bits, you may miss them or get lost in it. But I do think they are proving their case.
Okay, thank you. In my opinion, Wayne, your thoughts?
Well, I say kudos to to him for promote this book. And actually, I don't see what he actually. They're asking him. It's like not like he just came out. They asked him
Right.
about it, and he explained. So I'm like, hey, take that opportunity to do that. And like he said, no, it hadn't gained any traction yet. And I think it came out. I think the day before the trial or something like that. But he'd be a fool if he just invested in a book and not take an opportunity to get some information on it. So, but for him, I'm glad for him. But if the prosecution wants to win this case, they have to start bringing up people they're bringing up for the defense, like he said. He had testified that he didn't see nothing, different than what he was there to do. And, he said like he was very professional, blah, 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 but he never saw any like anything, make him think that Cassie was there, beyond her will. So, I mean, but I thought you would have thought that the prosecution, most prosecutions, I would assume, kind of know what the witness going to say because they didn't coach them. But to have a witness come up there and say and give all that, and it helps out the defense is crazy. So that was, if they're going to win, they got to stop that. But still, they still got to convince these 12 jurors. I don't care whether if they, if one little thing was coercion or one little thing that was trafficking, whatever. You still got to convince them to put this man away for years, because still, it's not enough of it. You would think that there will be several people that were coerced. There were several people that were trafficked. They haven't talked about nobody being, or the trafficking, or the little cases they're using for, coercion and all that. To me, it's just not enough. It's not enough to convince 12 people on what they're showing so far away for 20 years or for life. And even if they say, well, okay, I still say not guilty. All you need is one. I still say not guilty. So, kudos for him getting this plug in. And it's unfortunate that the prosecution look like they're pedaling backwards. That's it.
Thank you. Listen, I don't think he's a clout chaser for the simple fact that if he told them 10 times over that, why am I testifying? Why am I testifying? I don't got nothing to give y'all. And like you said, Wayne, they brought up the book, not him. This is a hot mess. I don't see, to me, you're 8 days in. At some point, to me, you need to build the blocks better. You need to build the blocks better. You get the only reason why what's the guy's name? The next assistant that was on the stand today. The only reason why he got on the stand today is he got a deal at the 11th hour. At lunchtime, the judge signed a deal for him. Because before that, he said he was going to go on the stand and plead the fifth to everything. Their case is weak. And we'll talk about it more as this thing go along. But at what point are they going to bring us some slam dunk, some meat and potatoes where we're like, OMG? I said in a video I did earlier, I know street thugs that don't even got an enterprise that got more weapons than they took out of Diddy's house. And let's not get it twisted. I'm not trying to say that this man is just innocent of everything. That ain't where I'm coming from. But literally, I know street thugs that got more weapons in their house than they pull. And for them to be showing us the high heel shoes, the lingerie, the lubricant that came out of his house, again, give me Rico. Amy J, you're in the building. What would you like to say?
Hey, everybody doing? I think I'm more irritated with the prosecution because I feel like their desperation, because I think they do have enough to get him in jail, but I think their desperation to continue to paint this picture with people who are clearly lying, like Don. I didn't think she was a good witness.
It
I
wasn't.
don't. She wasn't, and I feel like that's going to weaken what Cassie said. I don't think that they have to go this far by picking some of these people to come up there and speak. Like the Punisher wasn't needed. You know what I'm saying? Like personally, because it just keeps weakening the. Because I think when you see one person lie and you're on a jury, and I'm hoping this doesn't happen for these people that are there. There's majority men. I think it weakens the emotional uh emotional like input that Cassie put out there. Her testimony was very moving. And to see people play, and this is we kind of seen in the media before when the Busby guy came out and started dropping all these lawsuits. Everyone started saying, okay, look, we know that Diddy's a dirtball, but some of the stuff doesn't even make any sense, right? And I'm thinking that's what's irritating me about the prosecution, even with the psychologist. That was super irritating to see her get chopped up like that when we could have maybe they shouldn't have used her and got somebody else that had a little bit more research and time and really had a better like grasp on Diddy's so I don't know, it just pissed me off that they are not picking the proper people or the right people, because as soon as they get on that stand you see the defense poke holes in it, and I just feel like it's a waste of time, of Cassie's time, to actually come there and set them up with such a good alley hoop and they're not taking it after that. That's kind of upset me.
Yeah. So Carmel, Kimmy, let me say this, Kim. So all the karma catching up with him. You said we know, we really don't know though, right? We know the rumors on the street that he killed Kim Porter, Biggie, Tupac, Craig Mack, Black Rob, ripped off singer group. I think it's clear that Diddy probably is a jerk, right? If many people want to say that. But let me remind y'all, go back to that one lawsuit where everybody on the internet streets, because she filed it as a Jane Doe. You saw the body. They didn't show us her face in the picture. And the streets were 10 toes down that was Tierra Marie. And then because the young lady was forced to come out and say who she was, we found out that all the breadcrumbs on the street, all the urban legends, all the people proving for a fact it was 10 toes down that was Tierra Marie in that lawsuit. We found out later that it was not. I bring that up to say this. Just because the breadcrumbs are repeated 10 times over, it doesn't make them true. We need facts. We need truth. And the problem is right now, everybody's saying he did this, he did that. He got a lot of tags on his name. I can't say for a fact that he did or didn't. If Justin Bieber came out his own mouth, no matter what I want to believe, if Justin Bieber came out his own mouth and said, I'm not a Diddy victim, what do we do with that? We're going to keep saying, well, Justin Bieber's a liar too. He is a Diddy victim. We can't do it. If Justin came out his own mouth and said, stop the nonsense, I'm not a victim, what are we going to do? If a coroner said that Kim Porter died of pneumonia, what are we going to do? So that's exactly what the prosecution is doing, because they know that the street people, all of us, we pick up on sensationalism. So right now, you're telling me you knew this man was so bad that y'all raided both his homes. They raided both his homes. And this man is running a criminal. They didn't say he was running a PORN business. They said he's running a criminal enterprise. And when they go to raid his home, they showing us baby oil, high heels, stuff that you do when you sex or whatever the case may be. If he's running a criminal enterprise and he's unaliving people, he's blowing people up, he's blowing cars up, he's doing this, show me the bombs. Show me more pow-pows. Show me cash in the house. And you know what? They keep telling us about the substances they picked out of his house. And I already knew from the door. Y'all can go to my older videos. They didn't pick up enough, because if it was that much in there, they would have charged him like he was selling it in the streets. But they knew that it was just enough for him and his personal use. So when you show me exhibits, and all the exhibits are high heels, lingerie, lubricant, you want to continue, and this ain't me on Diddy, this could be anybody. You want to continue to put out there the salacious stuff to embarrass him, and you want us to convict him on what? And Q saying, y'all, but it don't even matter. They have facts that the substances were being distributed and that he held individuals against their will. Those two things can be proven. That's enough. But the thing is, Q, where have they proved it at? Let me tell you what else I said in my original videos when this first came out and the people was beating me down with a stick. I told y'all they had no video of an FO where the people, you saw Diddy forcing the substances down people's throat. The people looked like they was passed out and being violated in said video, because they would have picked them up soon after that March raid. I told y'all that. They do not have the evidence that y'all think. And I've been telling y'all this for months. Let me back up and let me tell you this. Let me remind you of this. Here's the thing. If they had the evidence that they needed, these witnesses would have been more solid. They don't have solid witnesses. They brought Don Richard and they told Aubrey O'Day, we don't want to talk to you. You ain't have nothing. What are they going to get from Al B. Shore? Al B. Shore is giving us street legend. He's saying Diddy had something to do with his whole condition he had, but yet where's your proof? You can't come to court with speculations. I can't come to court saying, well, in my opinion, did X, Y, Z to me. Well, how do you know that, Diva? Because I just know. You're talking about convicting somebody and sending them to jail for the rest of their life. And we're going to go by your hearsay? Life don't work like that. And let me just give a little tidbit here. The video, let me say, Carmen said, the video of him stopping Cassie is enough to kick him up. No woman should have been treated. I don't think anybody, Kim, I'm going to say Kim, so I don't have to say your whole long name there. I don't think anybody is in disagreement that no woman should be treated like that. I don't think anybody's in disagreement with that. But where I'm in disagreement with is this: if this was a domestic violence case, the video would have been an open, closed thing. I would have said, lock him up. But that's not what's going on here. That's not what's going on here. In the defense themselves admitted to the DV from the door. So we're getting distracted. And see, let me tell you, and unfortunately, I didn't like it either, but every time they call me for jury duty, they pick me. You have to be able to silence the noise and go by the facts that are happening in the courtroom.
I had a question, Diva.
Yes.
I had a question. So with Cassie's testimony, she did state that there were times that she would want to leave and they would keep her there. You don't think that's good enough for kidnapping and stuff like that?
I don't. So let me say this: if I was the defense in this thing, she didn't live with him. This out of her own mouth, she had her own apartment. She didn't live with him. Out of her own mouth, there was times where she was dating other people. Out of her own mouth, she said that, you know what, she did other things without Diddy. And yes, there were times, and those times were probably when they was doing the FOs, where she tried to leave and he said, no, you're going to get your butt back here and finish it. So,
but that showed you, like, if she didn't finish it, he would take her things away.
Listen, my thing would be in 2018, she left. But let me get some others in the building.
I'm just asking. I'm just trying to ask because I think
I don't think that's what they saying. Okay, they're saying that it's kidnapping because he stopped her from leaving. Once you stop somebody from leaving and tell them no, they got to stay here, that's a form of kidnapping. You're essentially telling them no. The fact that she didn't leave the relationship, that's a whole nother story. I think everybody has gotten it confused because they've showed so many DV videos that they thinking that this is a DV case. They're showing you the DV videos to show you the level of abuse she had to go through to get her to cooperate when he said, "No, you gonna stay here." She knew she had to stay there because either it was gonna be her getting her butt beat, or something was gonna be taken away, or something was gonna be held against her.
Yeah, like I think the grandmother, I mean the mother's testimony was very powerful because they took a loan out on their home to pay Diddy because he said that he wanted the money. So there are parts that do support the prosecution, but I hope it doesn't get drowned out from all of the bull, bull BS of lying witnesses. And I have to say, Don's testimony was awful.
It was
The
god awful. But let me say this, Amy. So the
Mhm.
mother took out a loan to stop a sex tape from coming out, but your mother wouldn't take out a loan to get you out of this relationship.
But
No,
did they ask her that though? They didn't give her.
no. The whole thing is very contradictory, right? No, the witness, the psychiatrist came up today to talk about why people don't leave in these situations. One of the things she brought up was the money. And she said, because Cassie said in her testimony, he owns me, he pays for my apartment, he gives me an allowance, this, that, and the other. How could it be money? Your mother, when you went to your mother, she gave you the money to stop a sex tape from coming out. You couldn't go to your mother to say, I need to get out this relationship.
Mm.
No. So when you break this thing down and you listen to it, they got
But
witnesses
they make,
that are contradicting their own star witness.
but there's,
And
but
not said, but hold on, I got to get some other people in the building. Katrina,
okay, I'm sorry.
you're fine. Katrina, your thoughts?
Um, Skip me on this, Diva. I was getting on the Spider-Man.
No
I
problem.
catch the next one. I catch the
You're
next
fine.
one.
You're fine. Julius, your thoughts? Yes, increase matter, and the money was given back. See, let me tell you something. You know what the real problem here is? And people hate to hear this because I understand Cassie went through some horrific stuff, and I'm not going to deny that. It was horrific. But the real baseline problem is these were two crackheads, drug addicts, who was volatile towards each other throughout their relationship. They had a whole back and forth thing. It was disgusting. It was despicable, but it's what they did. Julius, your thoughts?
I feel like to me, and Cassie's mother reminds me a little bit of Aaliyah's mother's loyalty to R. Kelly. Why is that you didn't save your daughter? And why is that um and why didn't Cassie feel safe enough to say, help me get out this relationship? And this is why I say she had to go through some kind of abuse and trauma in her childhood because um like exactly. I feel like um her mother did set her up for this. She very quickly went and got that 20K to not let that S tape come out. Now you couldn't think for a second and use that 20K to help your baby girl. Something's like the math isn't mathing if y'all can connect what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
I
Maybe
hear
she
what
didn't
you're
want
saying.
to.
Okay, so wait.
I hear what you're saying, Julius. But if he's telling her that I want my $20,000 back for what I put in on her, and I guess the mom sent the money back because he was telling her that he had put up front the money for Cassie, and by her telling her that he's going to put out an S tape on me, and he's going to blow up Kid Cudi car. So me myself as a mother, yeah, I would have sent it back, but then obviously he didn't take it seriously because he sent the money back to her. So it's a double standard, even though people can say that's extortion because he said, give me the money before I put this tape out on her. But not once. Let me tell you something. She didn't get no text from. I mean, we didn't see that text from Diddy. We only going about what she sent to her mom. Now, if he sent her a text like that, that'll be totally different. She never showed us the text that Diddy sent to her. She told her mom and Capricorn that's what Diddy was going to do. See, Diddy, he tried to be slick. He's being slick. If you pay attention, he's being slick. Because not one time did he tell her to send the money back. Cassie did that. But maybe I'm out of line. But that's all I got to do.
Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
and I
it.
think this is what Diva's talking about. The defense have poked so many holes that is causing the regular layman to question the legality of things. And these lawyers explain it very well about the RICOs and stuff. But if it's a layman judging it, they might just be like us and be like, "Well, I don't see the issue." And for me, I see the charges and explain right. But I'm wondering if those people on the jury are like the average bear and say, listen, these look like two junkies that were fighting and they have now want to put him in jail for all his crimes he's ever done. But they don't have the statutes of limitations on him. We got to figure out how we're going to try to wrap this thing up. But we can't get these more plausible participants to do the right thing. Like, Don, you didn't have to say anything about a frying pan. All you had to just say is what you saw. If he threw eggs on the floor, say that. Why? How many times you gonna change the story, girl? And that made me so upset because stuff like that you never forget. The details just don't ever leave you.
Yeah, yeah, she's a mess. Wait, let me, Kim said nobody's perfect. Anybody signing with Diddy is crazy to me. You know what's interesting to me though is because I'm pointing out, and I'm not saying you necessarily saying this about me, but maybe you are. I don't know, but because I point out the facts, people think, oh, you siding with Diddy. But you know what?
No, I don't think
Hold on, guys. I'm used to it though, because I was the first one to point out when the cases first came out what was going to happen, and I stand by my word because I'm breaking this thing down and I see it is what it is. You know, when we talk about the conviction rate for the prosecution, they count in that conviction rate when they have somebody take a plea deal. To be yeah, but listen, I'll say this, and I'm going to move on to my next stories. Okay, I'll say this: we're going to be doing this Diddy update every single day, and if you are not paying attention, if you're leaving all of the street stuff in the street, and you going by what is presented in that courtroom in New York. Right now, in my opinion, the prosecution is have an epic fail. An epic fail. And it is their job, not mine, for them to explain to me the connection. If a witness of the prosecution called the Punisher tells us out of his own mouth, this ain't Diva talking. The man said out of his own mouth, I don't know why I was there. The man said out of his own mouth, I felt like I helped the defense versus the prosecution. What do y'all want from me? And y'all like, Diva, you crazy. No, I'm not crazy. I'm hearing what their own witness said. And I'm letting y'all know, this man said out of his own mouth, I have no clue why.
they're trying to prove that he was having sex with her and she didn't want it. And he said he didn't get that from her. She showed
Out of his
signs of
own
feeling
mouth.
it.
Out of his own mouth.
Mm-hmm.
They had 11 victims witnesses so far. Who really helped them? They had Cassie. Okay, we heard Cassie's story, and we know for a fact because we saw the hotel video. I believe Cassie, but I also believe some other things went on in their relationship, and she was fighting like a death match to be the number one girl. If y'all didn't get that from Cassie, okay, then y'all blind.
Watch interviews.
Hold on, Amy. She was fighting like a death match to be the number one chick. And in that fight to be the number one chick, she was going to do whatever it was she had to do.
I saw videos online where she was very, very disgusted with Gina. She did not like Gina. She did not want Gina a part of the harem. And that's what her and Diddy had the
Because
most
she liked
conflict.
Kim Porter. She wanted to be number
Well,
one.
she liked Kim Porter, but she had respect for Kim Porter. She hated Gina because Gina came after the fact. She always thought it was 1 and 2, Kim Porter and her. And she was slowly etching up. When Gina came in, it's like Gina would not go away. And that's when Cassie was pissed because she was like, I've been in this 11 years, and this girl came around about 7 years ago, and she just won't leave.
And she won't leave. All right, y'all. Let me roll into this next story because y'all got me on overtime. I'm getting worked up over this Diddy case.
It's all right.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. Getting worked up on this case. But you know what? You got to catch the tidbits and you got to connect to the facts. Let me just run this through really quickly. They had Cassie. Cassie did what she did on the stand. And I gave her a lot of credit because that girl was 2 seconds from giving birth. And she held it down on the stand. Okay, because there's differences in her story here, but okay, I get that. But then let me go. Hold on, Katrina. We got a lot of noise in the background. We go to Don Richard. To me, epic fail. Okay, we got the ex. We got the Thank you, Kim, for being a new subscriber. I appreciate you. Much love. We got what do you call it? The ex-assistant. He really didn't say much, and he didn't want to be there either. Because he was crying on the stand. You got a grown man crying on the stand. Why?
I know.
At the end of the day, let me tell you something. At the end of the day, all of the people in that Diddy orbit, they was drugging, sexing,
all of them,
partying together, and everything they did it together, and it was all good till it wasn't good no more. And to the Southern District of New York called them and told them, we're going to charge you as part of the enterprise and you got to testify. That's why that other ex-assistant today, he said, if I get on that stand without a deal, I'm going to plead the fifth. Let me move into my next story because I really want to get into these stories. And tomorrow we will do day 9 of the Diddy updates. This next story, very sad. A friend takes her own friend's life. Can you imagine? You got your kid. Your kid has a best friend. That friend used to sleep at your house. You used to buy them cookies, cake, McDonald's, or whatever with your kid. And now that kid, that grown person, took your child's life. Let's go ahead. Let me share a screen so we can get into this story. Okay. This is it.
Johnson was gunned down on a Brooklyn sidewalk. Her killer has been sentenced. Today, emotions ran high in court as Johnson's family down on a Brooklyn sidewalk. Her killer has been sentenced. 4 years after Delia Johnson was gunned down on a Brooklyn sidewalk, her killer has been sentenced. Today, emotions ran high in court as Johnson's family finally got a chance to speak. And News 12 Shakti Dennis has covered this trial since its beginning, and she was there today.
Applause broke out in the courtroom as a judge sentenced Claudia Benton to 23 years to life behind bars.
I feel she deserved more, but today is about changing. Today is about forgiving.
The sentencing marks the end of a 4-year nightmare for the family of Delia Johnson, shot execution style on a Crown Heights sidewalk in 2021.
I am so glad that this is over.
In an emotional victim statement, Johnson's mother asking why and pouring her heart out to Benton, a woman she considered like a daughter who even lived with the family at times.
It felt good because it was a release.
46-year-old Benton listened with tears streaming down her cheeks as Johnson's family described feeling betrayed.
I'll never see my sister again.
Johnson's 21-year-old daughter, currently deployed with the Air Force, appeared by video in uniform, struggling to put her pain into words, saying at least her mother didn't suffer. Benton didn't address the family for legal reasons, according to her attorney, but he says her silence shouldn't be mistaken for indifference.
But it's very difficult for someone to absorb that type of speech from people that you know and love.
The judge even grew emotional as she spoke about the deep, lasting pain Johnson's family has endured.
And it ain't easy, but I know one day it will get better.
Claudia Benton's defense attorney says he's working on an appeal, but for now, Delia Johnson's family says they can finally begin to heal now that justice has been served. In downtown Brooklyn, Shakti Dennis, News 12 Brooklyn.
First of all, appeal. Hold on, let me share screen again. 1 second. She killed her childhood friend at a candlelight visual, then returned to the scene as if nothing happened. So Claudia Banton was sentenced to 23 years to life in prison. Claudia Banton was sentenced to 23 years to life in prison for fatally shooting Delilah Johnson during a candlelight vigil in Brooklyn in 2021. Banton shot Johnson in the head, then fired several more shots before fleeing the scene. Johnson's family expressed deep pain over the loss, with her mother calling Banton someone I once considered my daughter. A Brooklyn woman has learned her fate for killing her friend during a candlelight vigil held for a mutual friend of theirs. Following a jury trial, Claudia Banton, 46, was sentenced to 23 years to life for second-degree murder and second-degree criminal possession. She fatally shot Delilah Johnson in her head hours after a funeral for a friend, according to a news release from the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office. On August 4, 2021, around 9:40 p.m., Johnson was approached by Banton as she was chatting with a group of people in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Banton then shot Johnson, who fell to the ground, according to this statement. Prosecutors say Banton then fired at least 5 more shots at Johnson and fled in a vehicle that was parked nearby. Banton then found 4 months later in Florida after police manhunt. The shooting was a cold-blooded execution of a woman who was attending a ceremony to honor a late friend, Eric Gonzalez, Brooklyn District Attorney said. It is especially shocking that the defendant was so brazen to carry out this murder among a crowd of mourners, causing chaos and fear as they ran from the gunfire. My thoughts are with Delilah Johnson's friends and family who are heartbroken by this senseless loss of life, Gonzalez said in a statement. The sentencing comes 4 years after the shooting. I feel like she deserved more, Johnson's sister, Cordella McCrae, said to News 12. But today is about change, and today is about forgiving. Johnson's mother, Delilah Berry, addressed Banton in court during her victim's impact statement, per the outlet. I did the best I could for Claudia, Berry said. Family members of Johnson spoke in court about the pain they felt after losing a sister, mother, and friend, according to the news. Her kids can still call her, still visit her, Johnson's brother said for the outlet. I'll never see my sister again. I'll never laugh with her again. This is a very sad story. It's unfortunate. I could not find as to why she unalived her best friend. Wayne, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It just didn't make sense, because to unload a weapon like that in somebody, that's vicious. I mean, it's something been building up. I'd like to know, because this woman, even if she got 23 years, she's like, what, 30? She might be, I don't know her age now, but might be 60 something. Even if she was 70. Nowadays, 70 is not that old. I mean, it's, up there was not that old.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets to walk out amongst humans again. This woman, a case like this, where you viciously kill somebody and at a funeral, she needs to spend the rest of her days behind bars. I don't see it. That's, to me, that's almost unforgivable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I could forgive somebody knowing if they took a loved one of mine, I mean, and they didn't know anything. It's just unforgivable. I don't know why she wouldn't have gotten charged with first-degree murder. Yeah, I don't know how they got the second. That's it.
Very sad. Katrina, your thoughts?
Whoever this so-called friend is not wrapped too tight. How you gonna go and off somebody, then go to their candlelight vigil? This is crazy on so many levels. Just have to be careful on who you call your friends. And yes, I'm with Wayne. I hope she gets live her life and never comes back out of that. She took somebody else's life. So since she killed out that person with her life, now she won't get to live hers in freedom. That's all I got to do.
Thank you. Julius, your thoughts?
I want to echo what everyone else has said. She needs to be clinked up for life. And I did have like a situation in my personal A family member of mine was taken out by his own biological brother. So I know this kind of pain that this family feels, and they have my most heartfelt condolences. The anger doesn't go away. Does it ease? Yes, but it doesn't go away. And so, like, sometimes when I do think about my cousin who passes away, I pray about it. But it's always there. And sometimes, like, if you see a picture or something, it flares up. And so I know that family's gonna have their moments, but they just gotta pray about it and lead with God. But as far as that chick goes, she needs to be clinked up for life.
Yeah, sad. I don't know on why it wasn't first degree, but at least she's locked up. All right, I'm gonna roll into the last story. And the daughter, I don't know if how long her mother was suffering or what her thought process was, but she took the intubation tube out of her mother. Her mother died, and now she's locked up. And she was a nurse, so I don't understand what happened here either. It's just a lot going on. Let me just share screen here.
The plug on her own mother who was on life support. It happened. A nurse is accused of pulling the plug on her own mother who was on life support. It happened at North Shore Medical Center in Northwest Miami-Dade.
NBC6 reporter Amanda Placencia has more on what happened by the victim's hospital bedside.
While police say that this nurse tried to take matters into her own hands to stop her mother's suffering, the act got her arrested.
Juancette Green has been a licensed nurse in Florida for over 20 years, but now she's out of the hospital and in jail. The 54-year-old is accused of killing her own mother, who was on life support.
In this case, Ms. Green, you've been charged with felony of the first-degree manslaughter and aggravated elderly disabled adult.
According to the arrest report, it all started on May 5th when Green's mother was admitted to North Shore Medical Center with shortness of breath. Her health quickly started to deteriorate, and she was eventually transferred to the ICU where she was intubated. Then last Friday, Green went to the hospital with her son and daughter. While in the room, she allegedly said, quote, "I'm pulling out," and then removed the intubation that was keeping her mother alive. An alarm went off, and then medical teams rushed in to try to resuscitate the victim. Police say Green kept telling the staff to stop and that she wanted her mom to go in peace. Her mother died a short time later. Green left the hospital before police arrived, but was later arrested at her home for the act. She appeared in front of a judge on Monday.
Court finds probable cause in this case.
A spokesperson for the Healthcare Systems of America says the nurse is not an employee at North Shore Medical Center. A previous version of the story named the wrong hospital group. Healthcare Systems of America says they are working with authorities during this investigation.
Green remains in jail where she is being held without bond. She will appear in front of a judge again next Monday. Reporting in Northwest Miami-Dade, Amanda Placencia, NBC6 News.
All right, let me just share the screen one more time. So nurse says she wanted peace for her hospitalized mom. Then she allegedly removed her breathing tube. Sabrina Green faces a manslaughter charge. A Miami nurse is facing manslaughter charges after deputies say she removed her hospitalized mother's breathing tube. Sabrina Green, 54, a licensed nurse practitioner with more than 20 years of experience, was arrested last week and faces a manslaughter charge after she allegedly removed her mother's breathing tube because she said she wanted her mother to die peacefully. The Miami Herald, NBC Miami, and Law and Crime reported. Green's mother was hospitalized on May 5th due to shortness of breath, the local outlets reported. Green then called her son and daughter to see their grandmother. When the children arrived at the hospital, Green allegedly said, "I'm pulling out," and removed the intubation tube, according to her arrest report, the Herald reported. An alarm was activated and medical staff tried to intervene, but she died. When medical staff were in the middle of assisting Green's mother, she allegedly told them to stop because she wanted her mother to go in peace, per the local outlets who cited the arrest report. The same evening, deputies went to Green's home to speak with her, and the report said, per the Herald, Green did agree to talk, but said she wouldn't do it in her home. So deputies took her to the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office headquarters, where they read her rights. Green appeared in court over the weekend per NBC Miami, where a judge ordered her to be held without bond at Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Center. I don't know why she chose that decision. Was said. Thank you, Increase Matters. I appreciate you. I don't know why she did this. Wayne, your thoughts?
You know, first of all, if she even excuse me, thought about doing something that, well, she would ever need to do something like that, she should have had that discussion with her mother for DNR, do not resuscitate. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and even with that, it would have to be an attending physician or whatever to administer some kind of care. Second of all, she was wrong, all the way around wrong. Okay, especially as a nurse, you can't go around playing doctor, and you darn sure can't go around playing God. I mean, those signs of everything made this woman was going to pass anyway, but still, you're not God. You don't know. A lot of people have bounced back.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you can't go running around playing God and everything. And just like she was charged with, you know, they can't let her go, because if they let her go, then somebody else going to do it. And then they're going to cite this case, well, you let this woman go.
Yes, facts.
Okay, she had no it wasn't her decision to take somebody's life or decide when somebody should transition on. So she's getting treated just like any other murderer. That's it.
Well, there you have it, Katrina. I don't know if your background is unnoisy.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm at the crab house. But anyway, my take on this, I think all the older people or people in their middle age or whatever, please get a director of a DNR or just a medical proxy or something like that, so a person can go on that. Because I've seen a lot of people in nursing homes on tube feeding, can't turn, can't move, don't know if you're there or anything. And me myself, I think that's suffering, but it's not me to judge or who to take life. But if my mom, thank God, she went quick. I didn't have to make that decision on whether I have to take her off the life support or anything like that, because I don't know if I could have made that decision. So what I'm saying is, and sometimes when people be on life support, it comes back. So maybe she should have waited. If her mom was brain dead or anything like that, I could see that. But maybe she should have got the full diagnosis before she went in and did that. And maybe the doctor, she could have talked to the doctor. And the doctor would have said, well, this is not working. That is not working. And then they would have pulled the plug, not you. And that way you would not have this burden on your back. Because I definitely don't want to see my mom just sit up there suffering, not knowing I'm there. Can't feed herself, can't turn herself, can't dress herself, can't use the bathroom, just laying in the bed being a vegetable. Me, myself, I used to say it was selfish because the people didn't want their moms to go. And I get it. But I think that's selfish because I don't think nobody really want to live in that state not knowing that they're in this world, just laying in the bed getting fed by a tube. But still, I think she should have went the other way around it. I think that she should have talked to the doctors first, got her mom medical diagnosis, if she's coming out, if she's not coming out, and then they should have made that decision. It wasn't on her to do that to her mom, unless she had director of proxy over her mom, which I don't know if she did or not. But still, that don't give her no right to take somebody's life. So like Wayne said, yeah, you committed murder, even though your mom had a heartbeat. So when you stop that, you committed murder. I mean, unalive. I'm sorry,
Yeah, you're fine.
unalive.
You're fine. Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
very sad. It's very
that's
sad.
all I got.
Thank you. Julius, your thoughts?
I echo and stand with and co-sign what both Mr. Wayne and Katrina says. Those are my exact thoughts as well. I understand she was feeling like she wanted to let her mom go in peace. However, legal documentation needed to be in place, and because she's in jail, that tells me that legal documentation was in place, and she just thought that just because she was a nurse, she took it upon herself instead of following the procedure. So, yeah, and she's where she's at. Just justifiably, she's where she's at.
Thank you, Wayne. Yeah, increased matter. Yeah, the nurses take care of the patient, but that's how they knew. But they're not in your room 24/7. Like, they can't be in your room 24/7. But that's why they knew the tube came out, and because the alarm went off. And when they ran in there and was trying to save the mother, put it back in, she kept saying, "Don't put it back in. I want my mother to die in peace." Now, Kim says she's thinking she got that she just simply was tired of taking care of the mother, and she decided that's it. Mama's gonna go. Either way you look at it, pulling that tube out of her mother wasn't the answer. Wasn't the answer. And she's a nurse. She should have known that, because at a certain point, if they would have thought that there's no way your mother's going to come off this tube and survive and she's deteriorating, they would give the family the option. What do you want us to do? Do you want us to remove the tube and see if she can make it on her own? Or do you want us to just keep her on a ventilator forever? Listen, guys, I appreciate y'all being here. Some rough stories. And listen, I know it's rough when we do these Diddy updates, but trust and believe. If I see that the prosecution is swinging the pendulum their way, I don't got no problem saying that on this channel, that it was a win for them. But right now, it's shaky ground. And they need to pull this together if they want to lock this man up. But I really think what happened was that Damien that left, the prosecutor that brought this case in the first place, and then he left the building. I think he left those 6 ladies with a whole hot stinking mess. And they're doing the best they can with the mess they was left with, the mess they inherited. They're doing the best they can. He left them with no witnesses. He left them with no evidence. Let's be serious. When you hear thinking RICO and racketeering charge, you're thinking a whole lot more than some high heel shoes, some lingerie, and some lubricant. At least I know I am. I appreciate y'all. Listen, if you ain't hit that like button on the way in, hit it on the way out. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Thanks for being here. Good night and goodbye, everybody. Choo choo.